All right, Nightmare Zone community. We're going back in episode 131, I think, and I've got a ton of shoutouts to go through. Holy crap, well, 4. That might as well be a ton. First up, let's just get through these real super quick. Shout out to Mighty Grizzly. Birthday shout out to Abaxis. A shout out to Super Skills 101 Gaming. And shout out to Deathwatch YT. Get those before I forget. Very easy to overlook these shout outs. But yes, anyway, so today, gonna answer a few questions, gonna chat about a few things, and after that's done, I'm probably gonna talk a little bit about the Blood Plague. And because the Blood Plague is really important to State of Decay and to zombies in general. And that's why it's going to be the subject. Anyway, stuff we're gonna talk about. Man, so yeah. Making a ton of videos right now. It's causing delays on the top 6 mods because there's just so much to do, and when the computer is rendering, I'm really discouraged from using anything else because it just slows down the rendering process. And sometimes errors can be caused if you try to do certain things during rendering because of how much CPU gets eaten up. But I still have been trying to work on it when I can. Let's see. Who are we going to be playing as? So Lily is still asleep. Or still tired, I should say. So it looks like it's your lucky day, Mackie. You are going in. First, let's check our base to see if there's anything that needs to be touched up. Looks like the answer is yes. We need to scrub that. Rub-a-dub scrub. Looks like that's all, though. Any missions? Okay, looks like we are free of missions, so I guess I can take my time. Anyway, so I'm gonna answer some questions. One of the questions was, about the pyro launcher. It's like, why don't I mention that you can also stop the pyro launcher from shooting by pulling the trigger or just shooting it a second time? The reason for that is typically for brevity. In other words, wait, do I have... Nope. Okay, so we're not going to use the Echo S1 because that weapon stinks without gunslinging, but is otherwise quite good with it if you do have it. Okay, looks like we don't have any there. Maybe it's in the trunk. The reason though is if I give the details of every single little thing, then I'm just going to get trapped, and it extends the length of everything. Because, I mean, there's more to the pyro launcher than just that. It's not just crouching that causes the pyro launcher to stop shooting. It's not just shooting it a second time that causes the pyro launcher to stop shooting. It's also, it stops shooting on its own after you fire enough times. Once you shoot 20 rounds, it stops shooting as well. But the reason why I don't include every single time is because it shaves off a lot of time from the video. And that was a question specifically in regards to... Go ahead and bring firecrackers and some Molotovs just in case a infestation crops up. But that was a question in regards to the top 6. You know, why didn't I give those details? Just because when you're trying to keep the video short, there are certain details that need to go, and that one is it. The next question is, why is it that I say bases, and we'll be specifically talking about Mazzara Farm, where is Mazzara Farm? I think someone's living in it. Okay, this is Mazzara Farm right here, but they're currently living in it. Why is it that I say... I really like the centrally located bases, and then when I give the base ratings, the top rated base isn't a centrally located base, and that's because there is a list of hierarchies in terms of how important and how valuable a base is, and the location of the base has value, but the power of the base in terms of its customizations and whatnot, those are higher on the hierarchy of values than, what do you call it, the location. Basically, the way it works is if there are multiple bases that are similar in value, then the location can bump one of them ahead of the others. And the Marzara Farm is a great example of this. So, over here we've got Mazzara Farm. Over here we've got police station, and down over here we've got Camp Kellenquah. The reason why I tend to give the winning base to this one here, the Mazzara Farm, is because they're very similar to each other, and even though Camp Kellenquah is probably the best in terms of construction options, the Mazzara Farm isn't that far behind, and it's still quite good. It's not like it gets blown away by the by Camp Kellenquah. Go check up on some of our allies and see what they're selling. And that's why it goes to it. But in the case of something like the corner office versus the container fort, absolutely. Of course the container fort, despite being tucked in one of the corners of the map, yeah, I mean, it's just such a powerful base in general that it overpowers its location by just being so strong everywhere else.
Locked. Figures.
Also, it would change in Nightmare Zone. So what are you selling? So all of you guys probably have medicine.
Let me make you an offer. Okay.
They're not selling anything because they're not allies yet. Okay, we got a barrel right off the bat. Is he on our radar? Like the answer is no. Go ahead and prime a sniper support in the event we need it.
Got a fucking feral here.
The quick shot does not fail me that time. Let's see what the rest of you guys got. What's in here? This part of the wall, you know, must have been like someone must have punched through the wall and they needed to repair the drywall on it or something.
Good to see
You have knowledge of surgery, so you're probably the skill leader of the group.
That won't work.
Speak the devil, we've got an infestation. Oh, you're the last one, I'm pretty sure. Because I'm pretty sure I talked to a guy. So I have a feeling you are the final one.
Good to see you.
Her name is Her name is Payne. Or Mac. Okay. Anyways, let's go. Where's that infestation at? It's kind of annoying that they're not generating me any missions, so I'm kind of like, so what do I do now? This is one of the problems with State of Decay. It's like, once you've secured the area, it does start to generate this sense of like, what do I do now? Unless you just have a personal objective, and right now my personal objective is to get to 100 days, so it's like, I mean, I guess there's also Lily, if we can level her up. But yeah, so that's the order of high priorities. Like, I think, like, some people make it sound like, oh, are you being, like, hypocritical when you say that, you know, you like middle bases, but you give the best rating? No, it's just, there's nuance. Like, there's nuance to the ratings. There's this idea that, yes, you know, it's convenient to have a centrally located base, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Like, it's a... one of the issues, like, one of the things that drives me nuts about people in general is a lot of people have really binary thinking. It's up or it's down, it's left or it's right, it's black or it's white. No! No! Oh, it stinks.
That shut you the fuck up.
I'm just gonna go by this truck over here, because the zombies should have to go around the truck, which means they should automatically move around me. Although perhaps not many zombies answered the call. One thing you'll notice that screamers, they seem to be a little more perceptive than some of the other zombies. They're much more capable of... Like, even though I was crouching, he detected me at a pretty long range. Okay, let's use a firecracker and just get these guys to come out.
Fire in the hole!
So, you're telling me the firecrackers gets all these zombies to come out, but you're also telling me that the screamer did not. Okay, that must be armored zombie. Okay, about to say, like, did his head not explode? But I guess it was I guess the helmet just stayed on his shoulders. So, Drake to have a freak in the house
Stay cool.
could be
Help's
easily
coming.
dealt with a
Please, get here as fast as you can.
sniper support. But yeah, like, I think one of the issues is, like, some people have very binary thinking. It's like, if you say one thing, it must absolutely be that. There's no consideration that, like, there are multiple variables and whatnot. It can be really frustrating to talk to people like that, too. It's always one or the other. And, I mean, sometimes there are issues where they are one or the other, but that is definitely not one of them. Like, location is relevant, but it's not the most relevant thing. And so I don't see anything wrong with preferring bases in the middle of the map, but also giving the best ranking to a base that isn't. On Nightmare Zone, centrally located bases will matter even less just because the difficulty is so much higher.
As long as we remember them, they're not really gone. Feral!
It looks like they chose a farm.
I'm not giving up yet!
I'm coming to save you!
I respect the way the network's got each other's back.
So we got the sniper support going. You see a thing in here, nice and dark, as usual. Don't know if we got the feral or not. Yeah, in other news though, yeah, we got more games coming up into, what do you call it, into the channel. So, yes, it'll probably be, I mean, today, it was released today when I'm recording this video, but this video won't go up till tomorrow. So, yesterday, Dead Space, Episode 1.
Out there?
That is, you know, we haven't been playing real horror games, because, like, even though State of Decay has horror themes, it's not what I would consider a horror game, not in the slightest. It just has horror themes. It's definitely not a survival horror game, it's just a survival game. So, bringing Dead Space on board, it gives us a real horror game in the channel. And, yeah, if you watch the Dead Space, you'll find that it is, quite a bit scarier than State of Decay, that's for sure. Now, that's not a knock on State of Decay. It's clear that Undead Labs, it's not their goal. Like, they're not emphasizing fear. Like, it's just kind of a sub-theme. So let's see what these guys are selling. I'll take one of these.
Yeah, okay. Hey, good looking.
Skill in gardening. Don't need that.
So nice to see you.
Bartending. That could be useful for the base that we're in specifically. Increases the value of making beer.
Always glad to see you.
And mechanics. So they got a mechanic, they got a bartender, and I forgot what the other girl was. You.
Good to see you.
Gardening. So we don't need gardening, we don't need mechanics. Bartending is curious, but probably... Oh, there's the feral. Bartending is curious, but probably not needed. Survivor activity, okay, good. Oh man, like, come on, game, just keep giving me some things to do. Otherwise, man, I'm gonna be like sitting there like, oh, so what the heck do I do in this game? That's one of the. I mean, that goes back to one of my earlier discussions that you just quickly get to this point where it's like, what do you do in State of Decay? Normally, that's why I change maps so frequently. In the earlier parts of the Nightmare Zone, I would just change maps because it would at least repopulate the things to do. But that's just one of the issues, is that you just quickly get to the point that I'm at right now, and you're just like, yep, so you're just searching for things to do. And it's really bad on Standard Zone, where the game's even easier. That's annoying.
That shut you the fuck up.
Well, we heard our survivor. I can't hit any of them because it's so dark and I can't
I
see.
have some news to share.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Even better. Okay, we got a rare skills trader. What do you want?
Here.
My base is hurting for materials. Sure, I'll help you.
Sure thing.
Okay, well, at least we have an objective now.
After you.
This is where she wants to go looting. But yeah, Dead Space. That's a real horror game. It's a pretty good first horror game. It's not the scariest horror game. It's scary enough, though. And the reason I think it's a good first horror game, as I said in the episode, is because it's still an action game. Horror games that are action games are always going to be less scary than horror games that are not action games. A good counter. So what would be an example of a horror game that isn't action? Amnesia: The Dark Descent. In Amnesia, you can't really fight the enemies. Like, that's not really something that your character can do. Your character is basically powerless. So you can only defeat them through wits. You have to outsmart them, you have to hide, use their limited senses against them and so forth. But because you're powerless, it's just way scarier.
Yeah, now this feels like a loot-rich environment. Damn it.
Wait, we can unlock it?
Brainless coming in.
But that's why Dead Space is a pretty good first horror game, because it's not a crappy horror game. Like it's plenty scary. Make no mistake about it. But at the same time, it's an action game. So if the enemies are scary, you can just like zap them with your gun, and when they're dead, they're not scary anymore. There's the materials. Of course, they're in
What you were
the.
looking for.
Zed's
Oh,
coming
come
in
on.
outside.
The stupid geometry. That's the second time in the same house that the geometry is screwing me up.
Hey, I want you to have this. Hey, I want you to have this.
Okay, thank you for repeating the dialogue.
Just what I like to see. No zits.
Put this in the truck. I also tried out the Outer Worlds, and when I say I tried it, I literally just got to the first opportunity I could save, and then I got out of the game. And that basically meant I created a character, and that was it. One thing that, if you watch me play Project Zomboid, this is true for the Outer Worlds as well, is I don't like games that front-load story or character customization. Like, I don't like that. And what I mean by that is I prefer games that immediately start in the fight. So if there is a character customizer, you would do something like, maybe you have first person, or maybe they have like a full outfit on that hides their face. You go through a series of combat situations, and then, I don't know, you look in a mirror and take your helmet off, and then bam, you enter the character customizer. Same with like front-loaded story. I don't want to hear about like all this story material in the beginning. Like, I don't mind there being a little introduction. Dead Space is a great example of this. You start, you see your girlfriend, Nicole, that kind of gives you an idea, like, oh, that's my goal. And then you've got a little bit of discussion about the setting. You're going to the USG Ishimura. you get a little bit of bickering between two of the characters, which hints towards them not getting along. Hammond and Kendra are their names. And then, you know, you crash land onto Ishimura and it begins. I don't like, like I said, I don't like it when games front-load non-gameplay stuff. Like, I don't want to make my character... The first thing I don't want to make my character first. That's the first thing I don't want to do. And why is that? And also, like, why don't I want to experience the story immediately? The reason for that is there's this concept called show, don't tell. And the reason why it's a general rule is because it gets very dull and it's not very engaging just to tell people everything. Because basically you're taking them out of the experience. Like, if you're just showing them everything, then they're not really engaging. They're just like, they're just a receiver of information. And I think that's really bad in video games, because if you're just going to receive information, then you may as well be watching a movie, because a movie is going to be able to do it better than a video game. You may as well be reading a book. A book is always going to have more, it's going to be more descriptive than a video game. But in a video game, you can play, and so you can experience the story through gameplay. You can experience everything through gameplay. Like, as much as you can do in gameplay, that's what you should do, especially in the very beginning. And the way it relates to me specifically, here we go. That's what I was looking for. I'm guessing Lily is not tired anymore. Yep. She still has this silly outfit on. We'll continue using it despite how dumb it looks. I think it's, like, really dumb looking. But the point is that if they're gonna have all this story and all this customization and all this stuff that isn't me seeing how the game plays, then I don't know if I'm wasting my time or not. Like, I could spend a lot of time customizing a character, but what happens if I don't like the game? Then, you know, what if I spent like an hour making my character just right so that, you know, the cheekbones are just the way they ought to be? You know, I look through like all the color palette to choose my like exact hair color down to the saturation and the value. You know, like, what if I go through all of that? It takes me like an hour or so, and then I wind up not liking the game. It's like what a waste of time. And same with the story. You know, if I'm listening to this story, like, how do I know I should like this story if I don't even like the game itself? That's why the first thing I want to know about a video game is, oh, we need to bring stuff to sell, actually. The first thing I want to know about a video game is, am I gonna like it or not? That's what I care about. Is the game good? So show me the gameplay. Show me how the game works. We're gonna build a crap load of these. This is what, so I've said it before. Why does it take, why can, you know, think about how fast I could build these if every time I built it, it didn't send me back to the menu. What if it just kept it here and I could just mash the A button and continuously build these? Like, think about how much more efficiently I could do this. Oh, this is awful. I mean, it's great that I'm making so many of them, but oh my god, it's awful in the sense that it's taking so long. I'm getting the impression that I need to shift my strategy. We need someone with resourcefulness. Okay, we only have one character with resourcefulness.
If we don't get some more meds, we're gonna be fucked.
What I'm gonna do is locate them. Okay, we already have an outpost nearby, so we'll just... I might move the outpost even closer to make it this more efficient, because we're gonna have a lot of buying and selling in order to get the goods. But, you know, like, some people, like, they'll say I'm being too impatient. I'll say that there may be an amount of impatience, but I don't think it's too impatient. And the reason I don't think it's too impatient is simply because... Let me load up on stuff to sell real quick. In fact, I would say, rather than saying it's too impatient, I would actually say, it might sound a little weird, I think it's the ideal amount of impatience. It's just the right amount of impatience, because... Where's my pyro launcher? Okay, it's a little further down. There. Equip. Are there any other things I want to sell? Load up on these as well. Oh, we got a lot to sell, let me tell you that much. But the problem is his stuff is super expensive, so... We got a lot to buy to it. We got a lot to sell, but we got a lot to buy. But yeah, that's the issue there. Like, so some people are saying, like, oh, I was being too impatient with Project Zomboid. I think that it's actually more that the game... I wasn't happy with the game pacing, because I have played games that are slow-paced. Like, I've played board games in real life. I played Warhammer. I've played D&D, which are very slow games. I've played other slow computer games, in particular PC games like Civilization, which is actually coming to console, and Stellaris. Very slow games, but despite how slow they are, they get you into the game very quickly. Like Stellaris, unless you create your own faction, if you use a preset faction, like maybe you choose Humanity, for example, you can get into the game in like just minutes. And I don't just mean literally into the game. I mean like you're actually playing the game. You're in the part where you're making decisions. Another great example is XCOM. XCOM does not front load the story. They don't make you do character creation or anything like that. There is story in XCOM, and there is character creation, but it's not front-loaded. And they do it really well in XCOM, because XCOM has a mystery story, and that's their excuse for not telling you the story. It's like, we have nothing to tell you. It's very mysterious. We don't know what the aliens are up to. It's up to you to find out. So you get to jump in and experience the gameplay, and once you confirm that you enjoy the gameplay, then suddenly you can feel invested in the story, and then you can feel invested in customizations. But with a game like Project Zomboid, it's the other way around, where the first thing you have to do is get like bombarded by a huge quantity of information. And you make your character. One of the viewers, he asked me, why didn't I even take the time to make my character? And the reason was because, well, one, the game keeps hammering the point of you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, and then in the tutorial they just kill you off casually for the probably for like the shock value. And so in a game like that, like how am I going to invest time into making a character when they're trying to really hammer home the idea that, oh, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die? I would much rather, A, see if I like the game. Okay, let me just mark this place off by going in real quick. Interesting. Where is the trader? Basically, what I want to know is, am I even going to like this game? And if I do like the game, then I can just restart my character, and then I can pay attention to the character creation. But until I confirm that it's something I actually want to do, no, I'm not going to invest time into it. Because I just don't care. Like, I don't care if my character represents me very much until I get into the game. If I get into the game, then yeah, then I care more that my character represents me. But until I'm interested in the game, then no, I don't care if my character looks like me or not. I'm also used to playing as characters that are not me.
That's what I like.
Or not like me. So it just doesn't bother me. And that was basically my initial problem with... It's like, why am I even bringing this up? That's my initial problem with the Outer Worlds. It starts out with like a lot of story content, and then it starts out with like a lot of character creation and whatnot, and I'm like, I just want to shoot something. I want to see what the gameplay mechanics are like. I want to know, is this the kind of game I want to like spend a lot of time in or not? I much prefer games where you just kind of appear, like Terraria. Terraria doesn't have much of a story, but bam, bam, you're in the game. You can make a character, but you could just, bam, take the default character, just get in there, and you're immediately playing the game. And I really like games like that, because it gives me a chance to see if I like the game I'm playing or not. So let's see what he's selling. No guns, no melee weapons. Here's the books. So yeah, he's only selling the books. We're just gonna buy everything. We got a lot. We gotta earn a lot of money in order to afford all this, though. So what we're gonna do is we can't claim the house that he's in, and this might be too small. Actually, no. I think it's just right for claiming an outpost. It might be just big, and yeah, I can even see the marker. So we're going to collapse Outpost 4. Which will make it very easy, and then when we're done, we'll just collapse Outpost 4
Oh, I don't want to
again.
jinx it, but I think I just found the perfect... All right, folks. The outpost is up and running.
And redo it. Simple as that. Let's loot these real quick. Stuff to sell.
Again.
Actually, maybe I should play as the other character because I could have her run, but what's her running skill at? She actually might be maxed out in running. Okay, so she's maxed out in running, so that's an irrelevant idea. Let's sell some of our duplicates. Wow, we don't have many duplicates. Alright, do you have any duplicate mods? We can sell a water cooler. No, nothing else to sell over there. Sell these remote mines. You can sell these.
Hey, if you still want my copy of Gentleman Cadaver, come help me, or that comic is lost for
I can
good.
sell these. I'll sell these.
Maybe I should
these.
get started on that.
We're just gonna run back and forth and start selling this stuff off. But yeah, those are just by gaming tastes. Like, part of the issue is let me sell.
Let's get down to business.
All right.
Part of the issue is that I think part of the issue is that I do have really high standards for a story. Like, what a lot of people consider an amazing story, I tend to consider just a good story. Like Mass Effect, I thought it was just a good story. Not a bad story, not a great story, just a good story. Same with, like, Dragon Age. And so as a result, I don't get hyped up as easily over, like, oh my god, this thing has, like, the most amazing story ever. And as a result, I don't want to see the story immediately. I just want to experience the game. Oh, come on. Leave me alone, you stupid... Let's get this crack-a-lackin' on him.
Kind of scary out here. Can I get a sniper to watch out for me?
I got this.
So what do we
Sell
got
all
today?
of these. Buy one of these. Go check the jug. Not dead yet. I'm hoping that we can get a kill on him. Okay, can our sniper take him out? So he's taken at least 2 hits. 3. One more. Okay. Even though we got interrupted, we still get the we get our influence black plus 50, so we profit 50 on it. And we make the area safer. Took out that armored horde as well. But yeah, I'm not trying to be snobbish about stories. It's just that, like, for example, the Warhammer novels are amazing. They have just outstanding stories. And after reading enough of the Warhammer novels, it's just, you know, I just can't go back to, like, it's just harder to impress me as a result. That's basically what I'm saying. And as a result, the stories that I really enjoy on console or on video game are stories that tell their story through gameplay. Like Undertale, part of the genius of the story is that it's told through the gameplay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are cutscenes, no doubt about it. But the game also heavily uses in-game mechanics and elements within the battle. Like, when a character weakens and is injured, his attacks physically can become weaker. Or if a character is reluctant to fight you... What the hell is that sound outside? An interesting vehicle drove by, made a ton of noise too. What else can we need? More stuff to sell. Let's sell all of our nutritious things. Sell all of these as well. But anyways, I think I've discussed it a good amount already. But the point is that Outer Worlds, you know, haven't made up my mind about it. Same with Project Zomboid. I have not made up my mind about it. The reason I haven't been playing more Project Zomboid is simply because other issues are just taking priority at the moment. Like, other games need to be played. Zomboid will probably make a comeback after I'm done with Dead Space. But yeah, anyways, let's move on to the subject of the Blood Plague. I don't want to squander all of my minutes of gameplay for it. And the reason why I want to talk about the Blood Plague is simply because the Blood Plague is Undead Labs. Let's sell. I'm looking. Let me think about what I want to sell. So the Blood Plague is Undead Labs' way of expressing one of the core elements of zombies. Normally, when you think of zombies, you only think about the numbers. You know, they can be hard to kill. Sometimes there's special ones. But if we go back to, like, the legend of the zombies, you know, like, I mean, like, or if we go back to the original concepts of zombies, one of the most important things is that if you get bit by a zombie, well, like, you become one of them. Indeed, they're a lot like vampires. They're a lot like werewolves. If you get bit by a vampire, you can become one yourself. If you get bit by a werewolf and you survive, then you may become a werewolf as well. That's a very important and fundamental component to zombies. Now, let me see how much these are worth. Let me look for more stuff to sell. We could sell some of this.
Now that's heavy.
Let's sell only one stack. And so, a lot of games don't really go... I mean, like, that's not true. There are plenty of games that include the zombie disease. But there are also many games that don't include the zombie disease. That was supposed to be the big deal. Like, if you got bit by a zombie even once, it was supposed to be like, oh, that's really concerning. Like, oh, we got a lot of influence from selling those chemicals off. But anyways, the point is that the zombie condition is supposed to be, like, really concerning. You're not supposed to be like, oh no, I got bit by a zombie, well, no big deal. It's supposed to be, like, kind of a death sentence, basically. The problem with Undead Labs is, or not the problem, but the issue we have with Undead Labs is that the way that they created this zombie condition, they express it through the Blood Plague. The Blood Plague is the primary way that, you know, if you get bit by a zombie, it starts to give you this countdown timer where, if left untreated, you will join the zombies' ranks. You'll become one of them as well. Right now, we're just using up some of the many parts we have. We have so many parts, we may as well just start turning into something that we can sell for influence.
Let's make a deal.
But that's the setup of the conversation. So the Blood Plague is actually, like, really important. There's a lot of value to the Blood Plague being in the game. The problem is that the Blood Plague is not deadly enough. Like, there really isn't that much fear involved in Blood Plague. In fact, I would say probably the most panic-inducing thing about the Blood Plague would be... Wow, it's super laggy. If you played on Nightmare Zone in the tutorial, which results in one of your characters instantly getting Blood Plague, and then they have 10 minutes to live. That's probably the most panic-inducing that the Blood Plague is going to get. Because, you know, you don't have any samples, you just started the game. But on Standard Zone, that's not even a big deal. Like, in Standard Zone, when you do the tutorial, you've got 3 hours to treat the Blood Plague. It's not a big deal at all. Now we can sell these final
Let's get down to
components
business.
Okay.
and buy the last book. Where was the chemicals that we sold them? Like, the chemicals were worth a lot when we sold them. They were worth well over 1,000 influence. But that was for a full stack of 99. And so that's where we get into the issue. So what is wrong with the Blood Plague? It's so easy to ignore. Like, the first issue is, if you get Blood Plague, the full infection, well, it doesn't last very long. Like, it's like, what, 3 hours on Standard Zone. It's 30 minutes on Dread Zone. And on... Let's go ahead and reassign this.
I see a lot of zombies coming in, but they shouldn't put up much of a fight.
And on Nightmare Zone, finally, you get to 10 minutes. 10 minutes, that's not a very long time. You could easily have someone die to Blood Plague, as I did towards the end of the first season of Nightmare Zone, just because, like, I didn't even realize that one of my characters had been plagued. So 10 minutes is finally the point where that could be a problem. However, that's not entirely true because of the way you resolve the Blood Plague condition. In Project Zomboid, I found out that if you get bit by a zombie and you get, like, the zombie disease, well, you're probably screwed. Probably just going to become a zombie unless you get an item called beta blockers. And from what I understand, beta blockers aren't too common. So they are, you know, getting bit is bad news bears. In State of Decay, if you get full Blood Plague, well, you just need... Well, let's go look. What do you need? You need 5 plague samples, add 2 medicine, which is a joke. That's not hard to do in State of Decay. 5 plague samples. We regularly create... Oh yeah, we gotta scout the building. We are regularly creating the Zed Hunter bio items, and many of them cost 25.
Nothing more to
Oh, we
kill
can't
here.
look at it at the moment. So let's go install them. Actually, let's just keep the pill. You can take... You guys know how many samples are needed for it. Now we can do this. Oh, we don't have enough influence, so we can't do that. We need to go back. We just don't have enough influence right now. We'll have to just earn some influence, and then we'll claim it. Fortunately, it's not a big deal, because that house is giving us... one of our allies is giving us some extra bonus stuff. Anyways, let's head back to base and defend. The point, though, is that it's a joke. Like, curing the Blood Plague, it's not a big deal. The cure is readily available. In fact, the only reason why the cure is some kind of concern is because you didn't know how to make them. But when you play... If you skip the tutorial, you're taught the cure just from some random people. Like, oh, we know the cure of the Blood Plague. So it doesn't even seem like it's like a secret thing. Like, oh yeah, Blood Plague cure, everyone knows how to make it. Just like Mom used to make. You don't need a special skill to make the Blood Plague cure. You don't need anything. And as a result, it makes a lot of elements in the game pointless. Like, you know, you can check people into your infirmary to prevent them from dying to the Blood Plague at the expense of paying 2 more medicine per day. I mean, like, 2 medicine, that's exactly how much you need to make a cure. And all you would need at that point are 5 Blood Plague samples. In Standard Zone, the hardest thing to getting 5 samples might be the lack of zombies. But honestly, you could just go to a Plague Heart and either kill the heart, which will have at least 5 samples, or you could start farming the zombies, the plague zombies that are patrolling around the heart, as a way to get the 5 samples. This is even easier if you have someone with a crossbow, or someone with pathology that makes it even more efficient at getting the drops, getting the Blood Plague samples to drop. So for this to be one of the most iconic components of a zombie, the idea that if you get bit by a zombie, you become one of them as well. It's supposed to be like one of the most frightening things about zombies, where even if you can kill them, even if you survive an attack from them, if they bite you, you could just die. I mean, it happens all the time. Like, that's what happens in Dawn of the Dead. One of the 2 main guys, one of the cop, he gets bit, and then he eventually becomes a zombie. It doesn't matter that the injury wasn't a big deal. It doesn't matter that he survived it. It's just the fact that he got bit, even once, and it's a death sentence.
We've got zombies at the
That's
door.
one of the most important parts about the fear of the zombies. Like the idea that even if you can kill them, even if you're a skilled fighter, all it takes is
Let's make a pay
one
for this
mistake.
fucking dinner.
and you could be out of here. Now, a lot of games remove that, probably because it's too hardcore. You know, it's like,
Let up. Undeads are right around the corner.
if in Left 4 Dead, for example, if getting bit by a zombie in Left 4 Dead meant you're just going to die, then the game would probably end pretty quickly. So that's why they typically just, they either leave it as a thematic thing, like, oh, I got bit in the story, therefore I'm doomed. But it doesn't actually play a role in the game.
Great. More
But in a game like State of Decay, where it's not as fast-paced, you know, there's time to think about things, there's time to be quiet, it's not a full action game like Left 4 Dead, they found a compromise. The idea that if you get bit, it could be a problem. It could eventually build up to being a problem, but it's not like it's not an automatic death sentence. The problem is that they took it too far. But, you know, I think you get the... These zombies are really getting on my nerves. They're just like, of course, and then one of them scratches me.
Survive. That's what matters.
So look at this. There are literally zombies just a moment out, but it counted as, like, I was mashing the Z button. Sometimes the combat in this game is silly. I believe The Walking Dead is the same situation. In The Walking Dead, if you get bit by a zombie, you're done. You're going to turn into a zombie. And that's pretty hardcore. But like I said, I think Undead Labs went too far. So now the question, the more logical question is, what should have been done about the Blood Plague? Like, what could they have done to make the Blood Plague more compelling? The first thing they need to do is they need to make the cure more scarce so that you rely on other systems to keep your character alive until you can find a cure. This would raise the idea that, one, you don't want to get bit by zombies. It's not, you know, getting bit by zombies should not be something that you just shrug off, not just in terms of damage, but in terms of getting sick. Like, that should be a relevant part of the game.
Muscle. I'm on my way.
And it also would cause you to engage with mechanics that just aren't used. Like this mechanic here, treat blood plague patients, this hardly ever gets used because the cure is always on hand. The cure is so on hand that it's just an item that you sell to people. It's like a luxury item that you can mass produce in order to make influence, in order to basically get money. Let's get a meds trader here while we're busy. Need fuel.
Visitor here who might be able to get us some good stuff.
So if the cure is harder to get, you know, how do you deal with blood plague? Well, the first answer is don't get bit. That should be the first issue. You need to not get bit by blood plague zombies. When you see blood plague zombies, you should definitely respect them more. Another issue is you should engage more with the systems to stabilize people, because, like I said, it would cause you to spend... Where's the collector at? Okay, the collector's on the other side of the map. You should be engaging more with the other mechanics in the game, such as stabilizing, and there could be other ways to delay the disease. Like, maybe there is, like, a partial cure you can take, something that prevents it from advancing, something that basically allows, so it kind of acts like caffeine. So caffeine allows you to temporarily ignore the effects of being tired. Maybe they could have something where you inject yourself with it and temporarily allows your character to behave like normal. You know, it freezes the countdown and your character isn't tired anymore, but it's a temporary thing. Like, that's another way, where you could, like, balance things around. But there needs to be more ways to fight back against the blood plague in a partial manner. Ways where it's not a full cure. And it's not like, oh, well, got the blood plague, who cares? Like, you can actually take the Zed Hunter items, plague yourself completely, and then just be like, who cares? I'm just going to pop some, you know, just snap this little needle in my neck real quick, get that dramatic cutscene, and then that's all of it.
I need some help.
Like, who cares?
Help's on
That's
the
all
way.
she wrote. Let's activate this.
It's kind of scary out here. Can I get a sniper to watch out for me?
I got this.
It's kind of like, in fact, what it kind of reminds me of is, you know how Lily Ritter of the network, she has lupus. That's one of her conditions. So she needs medicine to keep herself going. And I mean, there's a lot of conditions like that in real life. AIDS is a good example. If you have AIDS, I don't believe we've invented a cure for AIDS. So all you can do is manage it with medicine. But it's something that you constantly have to do. You're basically just kind of stuck with it. And they could do something like that. Like, you know, maybe you're not bedridden, but now you got this guy who, he constantly needs medicine all the time. Maybe like once a day he needs medicine that eats up your supplies in order to keep him alive. Here we go.
You're the boss.
Okay, gotta drive him home. I like how they labeled him the comic book extortionist. Wow, their house is like right next door.
Is this where you're headed?
Okay, let's see what they have to say.
Thanks. I don't keep my comics here, of course. As soon as I put my hands on it, I'll call you. Now that's just a stupid answer.
Of course, there's got to be more steps to the story. Why wouldn't there be? Oh, I want to go buy my meds before I forget.
Okay, I'm out. You can take this from here.
But yeah, those are even more ways that they could have made the Blood Plague a lot more concerning until you can find eventually a cure. They just need to make it so that, one, you probably shouldn't be able to craft the cure. You probably need to find it. And it needs to be something that's difficult to find. There shouldn't be very many of them. Yeah, I mean, maybe they could regenerate on the map, or maybe they have to be located, and there's very few of them. Or maybe there's a limited number of them. Maybe you just stop getting bit by plague zombies, and, you know, maybe you just have to deal with the fact that maybe your community constantly needs medicine to stay alive, or you need to think about exiling people who are too sick, or killing people that are too sick. Of course, we hit a part of the terrain, I guess, and damaged our vehicle. But that's the point. The point is that the Blood Plague is completely ineffective in the game. But despite being ineffective, it's still an important part of the game. Like, it's not because it's ineffective, it doesn't mean that it should be removed from the game. It's actually something that could be really important because, like I said, it references one of the most iconic elements of zombies. The whole idea that if you're bit by a zombie, you join their ranks. Like, that's really important. That's like a classic zombie trope. And that's why it shouldn't go away. It should be included in the game. But yeah, I think that's basically the idea. I think that's the important parts of why the Blood Plague is ineffective. And let me know what you think. Let me know, what do you think could be done about the Blood Plague to make it something that you actually have to spend time managing. Something that's actually...
We've got a good thing.
Oh wait, that's right,
these
we're poor.
guys.
We don't have to be poor, though. We can sell stuff. In fact, if we just use all of our existing medicine... to make that stuff... Put all this away. We can only carry 3 at a time, so that makes us drastically less efficient. All we gotta do is sell all this to him. And then we can easily buy it all back. Or maybe not easily buy it all back, but we can buy it back. Okay, let's get this medicine loaded up.
Halo delivered.
That's another reason why this method of making influence is really good.
Yeah, sure.
Because it basically means we can flip the items. Like, buying the medicine it's way cheaper. It's barely anything at all compared to how much we make in return.
partner?
Okay.
I mean, I just bought all this. We've partially restocked our base, and we've got 500 influence, so we could actually take additional outposts, but we'll do that in a different episode. Today, we are just going to be done. Because I have answered some community questions.
I should probably take a break before I...
And we talked about the Blood Plague. So once again, let me know what you think. So I got 2 questions for you. 1, how important is it for the story? Like, do you trust games immediately, or do you need the games to kind of show you that, hey, you're not wasting your time with this game? You know, are you willing to give games a chance immediately? How important is story to you? You know, do you prefer games that have good gameplay at the expense of the story? Or, you know, sometimes you can have both. Like XCOM's a great example. Great story and great gameplay, but how important are the story elements to you? You know, do you mainly play video games for the gameplay? And second off, what do you think about Blood Plague? Is it something that you care about? Do you ignore it? Is it just something that the only time you care about it is when you're actually fully plagued? And what would you do to make the Blood Plague harder or more relevant if you feel like the Blood Plague doesn't make much of a difference? But at any rate, let me know down in the comment section, because that's the end of this episode. Like this video if it was entertaining. Subscribe for future State of K2 content. Of course, remember that you don't have to be good to get good.